Lights, camera, action. This week, we are going back to geography and looking at two very important events that have happened, one which is still happening. It is in two different continents, one in South America and one in Europe. This week, we're going to cover the earthquake in Venezuela and we're going to cover the heat wave in Europe.
Yeah, both of them are what you would call humanitarian crises that are going on in different parts of the world, on opposite sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Venezuela was struck by a really, really, really bad earthquake. In fact, two earthquakes that hit them back to back. It's been pretty scary and pretty sad. I don't know if you've been watching the news or reading the newspapers at all, but it's been quite a huge disaster that struck the people of Venezuela. The rescue efforts still going on. But, before we go into that, let's just talk about exactly what happened.
Maybe we can start with what an earthquake is, Debbie, and, how is an earthquake formed?
A lot of you probably already know what an earthquake is. And basically, it is a quake or a tremor or when the earth shakes really, really hard because a lot of energy is released. Sometimes you can see this in the form of waves. Basically, you'll see the ground actually moving in waves, which is really weird because normally you see waves wherever you have water, right? So in the ocean, in the sea, that's when you see waves. But when an earthquake happens, you see the land moving in waves sometimes if it's really strong.
In fact, the reason an earthquake happens is because the earth is made up of multiple plates called tectonic plates. And these are exactly what they sound like. Think about it, just plates, one sitting on top of the other. And so if you think about two plates that were sitting right next to each other and then one goes over the other. And, here goes an analogy, which is, let's assume you had some food on those plates and one goes over the other. It throws off the food from the other plate, right? And that's exactly what happens with an earthquake. It's when two tectonic plates kind of collide, they move apart. When they move and hit each other, then that creates a shock wave that goes all the way up to what we can feel on the Earth's surface.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes they can be really mild, so you'll just feel a a little bit of movement. You might feel like, the land is tilting a little bit. You might see some lights moving around you. But sometimes they can be really strong, and that's what's happened in Venezuela. It happened on the 24th of June. It happened specifically in Caracas, which is a place in Venezuela. Two massive earthquakes, and earthquakes are usually measured on the Richter scale. Okay, this is a very specific type of measurement. It's not like a scale, right? It's not like the scale that you use to measure in centimeters or in millimeters or, in inches even. So earthquakes are measured on a Richter scale. Over here, the magnitude of the earthquakes that hit Venezuela were 7.2. And this was followed pretty much immediately by another earthquake, which was 7.5 in less than a minute apart, right? These are very, very strong earthquakes. So normally a mild earthquake generally measures anywhere between 3 and 4.9, right? Now this one was really strong. 7.5 is really strong. And what happened was after that, this is the kind of earthquake where entire buildings can collapse. And that's exactly what happened. Like entire buildings fell down, they collapsed, people got stuck under there. The earth basically has released a whole amount of energy and that had to go somewhere, right? It's destroyed the whole city in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think, there are certain parts of the world which are very used to earthquakes. Take Japan, for example. It's very used to earthquakes. And so a lot of the buildings that are built in Japan, and there you'll feel an earthquake almost every month, right? If not more frequently.
Milder ones, right? They're not as strong.
Yeah, milder ones. Yeah, much milder. But the point is the buildings are built for that, even for the stronger ones. So the building actually shakes with the earth. And so it does not resist the earth. And that's what helps them kind of keep things stable. Over here in places like Venezuela, which is not really a big earthquake zone till now, at least not frequent, when you don't build it that way, think about it, you have a stack of Lego and you've put it on a carpet and you start pulling that carpet left and right. That Lego stack is going to fall very quickly because it was never built for, movement. It's a very rigid structure. And so that's what happens when there's an earthquake in a place that is like Venezuela, which is not prepared for it all the time.
Absolutely. So a lot of people are still supposedly stuck. In fact, they're saying, of course, unofficial figures are saying it could be anywhere up to 10,000 people that are missing, have lost their lives because of this earthquake. But the interesting thing
Yeah.
again is whenever something like this happens, whenever a disaster of this scale strikes anywhere in the world, there is always a lot of help that rushes in, and that's exactly what's happened in Venezuela as well. More than 24 countries have sent help to Venezuela. This is not just in the
Mm-hmm.
form of money. There are, people who've gone there to, like we mentioned, entire buildings have fallen down. You need manpower to remove all that rubble, to pull people out, to pull even animals out from these sites, right? So there are a lot of
Yeah.
search and rescue dogs who've been actually trained to smell and can hear human heartbeats from this rubble, the pile of rubble. They can find and identify where people are stuck. So that's pretty cool. So they're using the search and rescue dogs to find people, and of course they're sending in supplies because all the people that have been rescued have been injured. They need medicines, they need clothes, they need clean water. That's one of the hardest things, because when something like this happens, everything gets destroyed, right? There's no clean water, there's no food. So all of this help is reaching Venezuela from various countries around the world.
Venezuela has been in the news for the last year or so when Trump decided to go in and capture their president, Nicolas Maduro. And so, it was in a state of flux already. This actually has not helped the economy as such. So it'll be interesting to see how they recover, how much of aid is required to recover, because they still haven't cleared all the rubble and things. It's been over a week, but it's still in a state of rescue, right? It's not about rebuilding. Rebuilding is going to take a long, long while. It's going to be very, very long, the entire process for Venezuela. Have you ever actually experienced an earthquake, Debbie?
No, never.
No?
Somehow never. I mean, I think I did long ago when I was working in Delhi and I was walking on the street. But they normally say that...
in Delhi?
Yeah, of all places.
Wow.
Yeah. But, that's what they say. Normally, if you're indoors, chances of you realizing there's an earthquake is higher because there are more things that can move. On the street, if it's really mild, you might be like, it just literally passed me by. I didn't feel much at all. And then I realized, oh, there was an earthquake.
Yeah. I've actually been, not near the epicenter. If you remember, quite a few years ago, I think about now maybe 16, 17 years ago, there was an earthquake in Gujarat. And so I was actually in Rajasthan at that point of time, and they're neighboring states. And when it happened, I was actually in Rajasthan, and it was at night. So the bed shook, and we could feel it. And a couple of people actually fell off their bed, even all the way out to Rajasthan. So when an earthquake happens,
there's the Bhuj earthquake? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, the Bhuj
earthquake of 2001. Yeah, that was a really, really bad earthquake that hit Gujarat. Many people, I think almost 20,000 people, I think, lost their lives.
And it was a really big one because the epicenter was in Bhuj, but it was felt across a large area.
Yeah. And that was also a 7.7 magnitude earthquake. So stronger than the one felt in Venezuela.
Imagine, I was in a state next door, not even in the same city, not even in the same state, and I felt it and others felt it. So that's how crazy the earthquake can be.
Really scary, but the good thing is, a lot of people are still getting rescued. A lot of help has reached them. So hopefully they'll be able to save many lives. And as you said, the rebuilding process has to start as well for Venezuela.
Yep. Carry on to the second story, which is again to do with nature. Seems to be the theme nowadays. We're doing a lot of these nature episodes, El Nino, the earthquake, and now we're talking about Europe. Europe is facing the hottest summer it has ever faced. There are multiple sort of reasons why. There are also a lot of deaths because of the heat wave. In fact, some of the countries in Europe have actually said people cannot go outdoors into parks and drink because that's actually a really dangerous situation because it's so hot that you don't feel it, you don't understand it, and then you get a heat wave, and then you can potentially, have major consequences from that. Some countries in Europe, they are facing temperatures which are 10 degrees higher than what they have faced before.
Yeah.
10 degrees. I have a cousin of mine who is in the UK, and it is 39 degrees in London. And that is unheard of. 39 degrees. I mean, even in Bangalore, when you reach 39 degrees, you're like, oh my God, that's terrible.
Well, I live in
Yeah.
Mumbai, and we've had those kind of temperatures here this summer. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I have to say that this is, this the heat in Europe is making a lot of headlines, and it's super interesting because Europe is not used to those kind of temperatures.
They aren't at all.
In India, we see these temperatures on a regular basis every year during the summer. In places like Delhi, for example, it can go up to 45, 46 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Bombay this time went up to 39, 40 degrees on certain days in
Yeah.
certain parts of the city, right? Because we know that some parts are hotter than others.
Correct.
Depending on how much tree cover they have, depending on how those places have been built. Europe is facing this not for the first time, I would say, but it doesn't happen that often, and which is also why they are not at all equipped for this kind of a situation.
Yeah. Europe was not built for heat.
Yeah.
Because even their houses, when you build houses in Europe, it's built to contain heat because it's
Exactly.
usually cold. So there's padding, and the walls actually have padding inside the walls to keep heat inside and insulate the cold temperature. So now you actually have an oven when you're sitting inside that house because it's trapping even more heat.
Exactly. And they don't have fans in their rooms,
Yeah,
which
they
is
don't
the
have fans.
other interesting thing. Because, like in India, fans are normal, right? Like now, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah, yeah.
the demand for air conditioning in India has gone up a lot and will keep
Massively.
growing, right?
Mhm.
Because it's just getting hotter and hotter. Europe never needed it because, like you said, generally cooler climate, generally they prepare for, to stay warm as opposed to staying
Yeah.
cool, right? So no fans even. So that's been really hard. I know those have been selling out really fast in all the stores. And, there's a lot of directives from the government: stay indoors, stay hydrated, all the usual stuff. But yes, it's been very interesting to
Yeah.
watch how they have been reacting to this, to the heat situation there.
And it's one thing after the other, right? The simple heat wave, I mean, not simple, fairly, I would say,
Intense. Yeah.
intense heat wave. But a lot of Europe actually survives on non coal for electricity, right? And for power. India is a coal nation at this point. Majority of our electricity is produced by coal. But in Europe, it's actually nuclear power plants, which is a big reason for a lot of their power. Now, nuclear power plants get very hot when they're generating electricity. Usually, the rivers in Europe just flow through the nuclear power plants. It's designed in such a way to reduce that heat. But now those rivers are super warm.
Yeah.
And so that's not helping them reduce the heat from a nuclear power plant perspective. So things are scary. Similarly, you think about it, the Arctic, which is your two ice caps, the Arctic in the north and your Antarctic in the south, that's starting to actually heat up as well, which again
Yeah.
will affect a lot of the biodiversity in that region.
A lot of glaciers are just melting and disappearing,
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
completely because of the heat. Yeah, it's really
yeah.
scary and quite sad.
There's train disruptions in Europe because, again, when you're learning science, you learn that metals expand with heat and contract when it's colder, right? So it becomes smaller when it's colder and it expands when it's warmer. Now, trains run on railway lines, and railway lines are metal, and they have never planned for those railway lines to have a space in between for expansion. Now, suddenly it's so hot, the railway lines are expanding, and there are train and railway disruptions in Europe. So it's just absurd. Things that we have taken for granted and things that we plan for and design for in places like India, which is warmer, has never happened in Europe. And now, because of this entire heat wave, that's coming to the fore and becoming very important.
We're going to see more and more of this,
Yep.
with every passing year, unless we really figure out how to stop global warming, how to prepare rather for climate change as well. Both things need to happen at the same time. Till then, I guess we'll just have to keep sharing the knowledge that we have in different parts of the world in terms of, okay, how do we deal with extreme heat? How do we deal with extreme
Yep.
cold? How do we deal with extreme conditions? And how can we help each other out, as we saw in Venezuela? Like, can we mobilize enough so that we can help each other out? I think that is
Yep.
something that I think is common to both these stories as well.
Yes. So, given all of this geography and science and, all of it, it is time now for our quiz question. The
That's
quiz master,
right.
Debbie, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The quiz question for today's episode of Takaro Kids is, what exactly does the Richter scale measure? Okay, this is an
Ooh.
easy one for you if you've been listening.
It measures
You know
earthquakes.
this. I want more specific answers. I'll give you options to
Okay.
just make it a little
Okay.
bit easier.
Okay.
Okay, option 1 is the amount of visible destruction to buildings. Option 2, the magnitude or the energy that has been released at the source of the earthquake. Option 3, the duration of the shaking that takes place in minutes.
Ooh.
And option 4, the depth of the fault line. The fault line in the Earth's surface where the earthquake begins. Is that what it measures? Okay, 4 options. I want you to give
Good
me a
one.
specific answer and send them in to us. You can either send us this answer on Instagram, you can send us a direct message or a DM, or you can get onto our website www.takarokids.com and enter your answer there.
Excellent. And like last time, we asked you the question which was specific to the World Cup, the Football World Cup. And the question we asked was, when was the last time, if at all, that USA hosted the Football World Cup? What was the answer, Debbie, and who is our prize winner for this week?
Well, the answer is the US last hosted the FIFA Men's World Cup, Football World Cup, back in 1994, and the correct answer was sent to us by a little boy called Agastya. So congratulations, Agastya. That is the correct answer.
Oh, Agastya.
Well done.
So, Agastya, you're going to get your gift certificate, and do make sure that you talk about Takaro and spread the word about Takaro, and also keep participating, because it doesn't matter if you have answered before, won before, never won before. It doesn't matter. Just keep answering. Send us your answers, and you could be the lucky winner for this week's episode. What does the Richter scale measure? And until next week, it is bye-bye.
Goodbye.